as you know, we know it's not going to be Zion, but depending on who goes before them, it could be Ja Morant, it could be R.J. Barrett.
One of the things that I'm worried about here, Frank Isola, and I was looking at it from this perspective, even though the Knicks, because I spoke to them this morning, vehemently refute any notion that they were going to trade the number one overall pick if they had acquired it in an effort to acquire Anthony Davis. I'm of the mindset these are the New York Knicks. You never know. If you've got that number one overall pick, you know what? You've set yourself up nicely because you can get in Anthony Davis. If there's any truth to KD and Kyrie coming to town, who knows what kind of deal you could ultimately end up pulling off if you've got that asset available to you. But now that Zion is not going to be the number one overall pick and nobody has his value, obviously, in this NBA draft that's coming up, I'm of the mindset we're back to hoping and praying, beyond hoping and praying, that KD and Kyrie come to New York because it's all we've got right now. How do you look at the landscape, Frank?
I agree with you. And I do think whatever people say today, that could obviously change between now and the draft, that first week after the draft and right around free agency. So, of course, no one's going to want to tip their hand. I do think this stuff. You could draft Zion. If you got the number one pick, I think the fans, people in the organization on the business side, media people, we have not really seen a guy enter the league like this, maybe since LeBron James, but not a lot of people had gotten to see LeBron. We had heard about him. We saw him on the cover of Sports Illustrated. He was a couple of his high school games were on ESPN, but we've seen Zion Williamson. The ratings for Duke this season were off the charts. He was like must-see TV. So I just think whoever would have gotten the number one pick, in this case New Orleans, I just find it hard to believe that anybody would have traded him. Meanwhile, for the Knicks, and I think you're right, obviously they're still in play for guys like Kevin Durant and also for Kyrie Irving. But now you look at the roster. The roster was 17-65. It's going to get better if you had Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. But Kevin Durant would be leaving out, the best roster in the NBA, and Kyrie Irving would be leaving one of the best rosters in the NBA to come to the Knicks. So there'll still be work to be done, and we know how it works with high picks. Everyone gets excited about them, and then the season starts, and you're like, you know what? The kid's only 20 years old. He's only 21. It takes time, and it's the same thing with kind of the Lakers are going through right now. Where LeBron is in his career, he's at a much different timetable than what the younger Lakers are, and that's what makes it kind of an awkward fit, and that's why for the Knicks, they got to be careful. You got to make sure you get two of those guys, because in L.A. they only got one, so it's LeBron who is in a win-now mode, surrounded by guys who are still maturing as players, as people, getting used to the league. So those timetables haven't exactly meshed quite yet. And if I were the Knicks, that's the one thing I would be concerned about. But to your point, if you're getting two of those guys, it's a little bit different.
What are we to feel about the New York Knicks at this particular juncture since Steve Mills and Scott Perry are in charge? James Dolan is still running the franchise. He's still the boss. Yep. He's still the individual that cuts the checks. You've covered this team for over 17 years. Your publication in New York Daily News has its history with the New York Knicks. You're no longer a part of that publication, but you still know all the ins and outs. I would ask you, what are we to expect from the Knicks with this hierarchy in place compared to what we've seen from the Knicks in recent memory?
Well, and that's the thing. Everyone is kind of unproven in their current roles, and even the head coach. I do think the Knicks are going about it the right way, because I do think that the one thing about fans, and especially in light of what the Sixers went through, it does seem like fans are willing to be patient with a rebuild as long as they feel like you have a plan. But this is the one thing about these rebuilds. Sometimes a monkey wrench gets thrown into it. You're thinking, we got the worst record in the league. Yeah, we'll get the number one pick. It hasn't exactly worked out that way. So again, I think they're going to try to strike it rich this summer. If they don't, we know what their spin's going to be. Well, we're kind of rebuilding. And I got to be honest with you, I would understand that in a lot of ways,
so would
except for the fact that you did trade Porzingis. So if you trade Porzingis and you don't end up with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, then it's like you gave a guy away for something much further down the road. Then you're really all in on a rebuild.
Let's stay right there with that particular Kristaps Porzingis trade, because here was my understanding of it. About 24 to 36 hours prior to him being traded to Dallas before the NBA trading deadline expired, Frank Isola basically said to them, look, I want out. Now, if you're not going to move me, then I'm going to exercise the qualifying offer in my contract. I'll serve one more year. Everybody will know I don't want to be here. That'll make it even that much more difficult for you to move me later on. And on top of it all, I have no intention of signing with you again. I'll sign my qualifying offer for the additional year, but that's about it. After that, I'm out. And the New York Knicks not only could end up with nothing, but in the summer that they're trying to recruit people to come to the franchise, you'd be busy telling the world that you didn't want to be here and basically saying to others you shouldn't want to be here either. So in light of that reality, that's why they had to trade Porzingis. That's why they were stuck making sure they let him go, which is why I think they did a good thing by clearing an additional $41 million in cap space. What do you make of that?
No, I understand why they did it. My point is, if you don't get anybody, now you're thinking, could they have hung on to him, maybe tried to trade him, include him in the deal for Anthony Davis? I understand what you're talking about, but they didn't do a good enough job probably nurturing that relationship. But let's also be honest here, Kristaps, when he was healthy, is a terrific player. An issue with him was he wasn't healthy, and he could be a bit of a high-maintenance player. I mean, a high-maintenance guy himself. So the relationship was never good. I think once it came out that Phil Jackson was thinking about trading him to the Boston Celtics, I think everything kind of soured from that point on. And I do agree with you. I didn't think eventually that he wanted to be there. I understand why the Knicks did it. But again, part of your plan is to make that trade. You open up the two salary slots with the hope that this summer, Kevin Durant is obviously the big fish out there. Can it be Kemba Walker? Would it be Kyrie Irving? They want to add that other guy as well. I think if you do that, then the trade was a smashing success.
Frank Isola right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. What do you think about the combo of KD and Kyrie in New York? How does that mix work, or how does that combo work for you?
Well, I mean, Kevin Durant's at a different level. I mean, you watch the way that he's played in these playoffs ever since he had that moment where he told the media, you know who I am, I'm Kevin Durant. Look at the games that he's had. He had a 50-point game, a 46-point game, a 45-point game. I give the Warriors all the credit in the world for the way that they've played, especially the last 5 quarters against the Houston Rockets. That was like championship-level toughness, ability, everything like that. But offensively and now even defensively, he's just at a different level. The one thing is, he's a bit of a flaky guy. I know that you've had some things in the past, and he's very sensitive to criticism. Kyrie Irving is kind of the same way. And I always laugh remember when Adam Silver came out during the All-Star game, he said, you know what, my feeling is from talking to a lot of NBA players, they're generally unhappy. And the first two guys I thought about were Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. When you look at them, you're like, why would you be unhappy? Both of you guys seem like you're in a pretty good situation. And then you think to yourself, wow, these could be the two guys that come to New York. And it seems like they are unhappy all the time. Talented players, but Kyrie, as you know, Steve, he's got to take a bit of a hit here because last year he did not play for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they made it to an NBA Finals. He did not play for the Boston Celtics in the playoffs. They made it to Game 7 of a conference finals 5 minutes away from going to the championship, and he was on the team this year, and they won 5 playoff games. So he could point the finger all he wants at young guys and at Brad Stevens. He's got to take some accountability as well for the way that the team performed this year. He's the best player on the team. They won 5 playoff games.
But what we hear is that KD wants to play with him. Why do you think a player of KD's style and his magnitude would want to play with Kyrie Irving?
I think it's just, I'm a big-time player. You have a big name. We would be perfect together. I think that has a lot to do with it. But I also, if you're Kevin Durant, just know this, Stephen, you know it better than anybody. What you have in Golden State, don't expect that anywhere else. You know, you're not going to have Steph Curry. You're not going to have Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and that kind of ownership and that kind of front office. But I think what he's worried about is I do not want to be in the same situation that LeBron got in. LeBron went to L.A. and he's figured, well, somebody will come with me, and they didn't get anybody. At least not yet. Paul George, we all thought there was a chance he would go there. When it came time to sign, he took the most money that he could for Oklahoma City. So I think that's why Kevin Durant, if he comes to New York, he wants to make sure he's coming with somebody.
Frank Isola right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. What do you think of Kawhi Leonard and how he's looked in this playoffs and what his free agent options are going to be?
He's another guy. He's very unpredictable. He's a flaky guy. I think it helps him in a lot of ways on the court. He doesn't show a lot of emotion. You know, that game on Sunday where nobody else wanted to shoot, and you know Kawhi Leonard's not the kind of guy who wants to take 39 shots in the game, but he said, the heck with it. Nobody wants to shoot. I'll carry us through. And he obviously hit a lucky shot, but he was tremendous. I think he can go to the finals, and I don't know if he's going to stay in Toronto. Toronto's a great city, one of the best sports towns in North America.
Well, it's one of the great towns. It's one of the great towns, period. Let's just call it what it is. Very few things are more special than Toronto.
Yep, very diverse. It's an international city, very sophisticated city, got a lot of culture up there. but who knows what he wants? He's hard to predict. I don't think we ever thought that someone of that stature, being a Finals MVP, would want to leave the San Antonio Spurs. We weren't used to that. That never happened with David Robinson, Duncan, even though he talked to Orlando more than, 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker in his prime didn't leave San Antonio. So that part, the fact that he was willing to leave there, to me, all bets are off the table. You can't tell me at this point, Steve, and we've seen a lot of crazy things happen over the past couple of years with all the moves that LeBron has made and what Kevin Durant did. You can't tell me at this point you're going to be surprised if he leaves or he stays. I just think it's that up in the air, and he's that unpredictable.
Who do you think has the best chance to end up with LeBron James in L.A.?
You know what? I would not rule out Anthony Davis trade, and I still think there's a chance. I know I've heard a lot of people, I think you have said it as well, oh, it's crazy. Kyrie Irving, you just never know. What if they got Anthony Davis in a trade? Is there a way they can get Kyrie Irving, maybe Jimmy Butler? I think this summer is a referendum on the Lakers, and I'm not going to put it on LeBron. LeBron, I get it. Maybe Kevin Durant doesn't want to play there, but LeBron James has been a successful player in his career. This is on ownership and management there. And none of, with all due respect to all of them, in their current roles, they haven't accomplished anything yet. I know what LeBron James could do. LeBron James is a great player. You bring LeBron James in, you better go out and get another person. And I had a lot more confidence with maybe Magic Johnson wasn't involved in the day-to-day, but the free agency stuff, if I'm the Lakers, I get him involved somehow, some way. Try to get him to talk to some of these guys and recruit.
It's interesting that you bring up Magic because I saw Magic praising the Lakers, Kyle Kuzma, Lucky Charm jacket, and all of this other stuff, getting them the 4th overall pick in the NBA draft. But if I am a Laker fan, how much do you care or how do you absorb any words of encouragement from Magic Johnson right now, considering the fact that he just walked away from the Lakers as president of basketball operations? And what are we to think about what's been transpiring with the Lakers in regards to Jeannie Buss, Linda Rambis, Kurt Rambis, Rob Pelinka? What do you make of that whole situation?
Well, but my thing is, I didn't like what Magic did, but then as time has gone on and we've seen and some of these stories have come out, it sounds like it was pretty dysfunctional. I understand LeBron being upset, but it's also LeBron. It's not like he's ever given anybody a heads up when he has left. Right. What I thought was weird about it, Steve, was when they were going out to meet with Monty Williams. And according to reports, it was Jeannie Buss, Jesse Buss, Joey Buss, Linda Rambis, Kurt Rambis, Tim Harris, the COO, and also Rob Pelinka. And I'm thinking to myself, is Pat Riley, Masai Ujiri, Danny Ainge,
bringing 6 different people?
Buford, are they doing that? Come on.
No.
I mean, Monty Williams has been in the San Antonio Spurs organization. He played for Pat Riley. He's played for Larry Brown. You don't think when Monty Williams sees like a boatload of people showing up, he's thinking to himself, what is going on here? You know that LeBron must be thinking that. LeBron's at a different stage of his career, but there's got to be a part of him that must be thinking, I wish these guys would lean on me a little bit more because I kind of know what's going on here.
Do you think that LeBron James' conspicuous silence as it pertains to who the new coach of the Lakers was going to be, now is, in Frank Vogel, Jason Kidd, lead assistant, all of this other stuff, the fact that he has been so solid and sort of let things be, I think it potentially makes the Lakers less appealing in terms of prospects' willingness to join LeBron James in L.A. because he doesn't seem to really have a strong voice over what the organization does. What are your thoughts about that?
When the Knicks decided not to bring back Mike Woodson, and we talked to Carmelo Anthony about it, and Carmelo Anthony, his voice cracked a little bit because he had a lot of success under Mike Woodson. And I think Carmelo Anthony also knew that the reputation was people think that I'm a coach killer. So Mike Woodson being removed as coach, people are going to think that I had something to do with it. And I think LeBron James, he knows what people think about him, that he runs everything. And I think he's thinking, I'm not going to get blamed for this if this goes wrong. If this is what you guys want to do, go right ahead. But I'm of the belief, LeBron James at 34 years old, he's on your team. If you don't look at him as a partner, you're making a big mistake. Then you might as well trade him because he's got like 2 very good years left in him. We already saw him suffer a major injury this season. He needs to be your partner. And if he wants Tyronn Lue to be the coach, make Tyronn Lue the coach. Now, people are going to say, you can't do that. That's unfair. You can't turn the organization over to him. It's LeBron James, and it's a different stage of his career. This is nothing you didn't know before you signed him. Once you sign him, you have to know what you're getting yourself into. And I'm of the belief that Jeannie Buss, and I think that Phil Jackson is somewhere in the background, probably as an advisor. Kurt Rambis, Linda Rambis, they're thinking, we're the Lakers. We do things our way. You're not going to run the team. But we'll make a concession. We'll let Jason Kidd be the assistant coach. So to me, they're halfway in with LeBron James. I think that's the wrong way to do it. Either be all the way in or think about trading him, because I don't think it's going to work out this way. I think it's a big mistake that they're making.
If you were to trade LeBron James, what do you think would be the ideal landing spot for him?
I mean, I don't think Houston could get him, but they're kind of in that same
That's
now.
my selection. It would be Houston. I don't think they could get him, but that would. Yeah. Hey, listen. Here's the thing, Frank. They offered 4 first-round picks for Jimmy Butler.
That's fair, and I think Daryl Morey. The one thing to Daryl Morey's credit, Daryl Morey is always thinking about winning a championship. And my thing about the Rockets, I was very disappointed with what happened in Game 5 and the way that they played in Game 6. To me, that was a golden opportunity. I'm not ready to say their window was completely closed. And if you went out and got LeBron, it'd certainly be a different story. So I could see the Houston Rockets trying to make a play for it. And if you were the Lakers, you got the 4th pick now. Why not explore trading LeBron? Maybe you have all these younger players. Maybe just think to yourself, we get it. Maybe we need to reboot again.
Well, let me say this. Let me say this before you continue. Number one, even though he doesn't have a no trade clause, and the Lakers, he doesn't have a no trade clause, so the Lakers can trade him. He does have a 15% trade kicker. You know how that works.
Yeah.
And so as a result of that, and with the Lakers and their financial issues, that might be a reason as well that they wouldn't.
Let me ask you this: do you think now he's there, and he has every right? He's a free agent. He's accomplished a lot in his career. He's thinking about his post-playing career, family things. He wants his family to be happy and his kids to go to school out there. That's great. Do you think, from a basketball standpoint, there's a part of him that regrets making the move that he made?
Yes, I really do. I think that from a basketball standpoint, I think LeBron James is in L.A. for quality of life, meaning weather, Hollywood on the business side, and his family wanted to be. I think that LeBron James is willing to make the sacrifice to do for his family more so than himself, knowing that they would be happier out there than they would be in Akron. But I think for strictly basketball purposes, I do think that there are regrets. I do think that it's a move he wishes he didn't feel he had to make. That's my personal belief.
And that's why, and I think you're 100% right. And I think that's why he feels some level of betrayal and hurt by Magic Johnson, because we know he looks at Magic as an equal. A guy who's won before, has been a championship player, what he's done in his after-playing career in terms of business. And I think not having that security blanket there, you can't tell me he's not concerned. And the thing with Tyronn Lue, I heard that if Tyronn Lue probably would have taken a 4-year deal, I cannot get on the Lakers for only giving the 3-year deal. You know what? It's a lot of money, 3 years deal. Why do I have to give you a 5-year deal? I don't agree with telling him who to hire as an assistant coach. I think that, they did that to Derek Fisher in New York, and that was with Kurt Rambis and Phil Jackson. And let me tell you something. Derek Fisher, I know people laugh and everything. Derek Fisher did a very good job in New York. And he had the respect of the players, but there were some issues on that coaching staff and still made him hire some guys, and that never works out. It just doesn't. I shouldn't say it never does. Most of the time it doesn't.
Let's call it like it is, Frank Isola. You know me. We all know that the players respected Derek Fisher. I have nothing against Kurt Rambis. I think he's a good man. He's knowledgeable about basketball, but those players didn't have that same level of respect for Kurt Rambis. You and I both know that. Am I correct?
No, 100%. Derek had a lot of respect in that locker room, and he was trying to do things his own way. But, Kurt Rambis was pushing the triangle, which was coming through Phil. Phil Jackson trying to coach the team from the 10th row at Madison Square Garden. That wasn't going to work. You know what? If you want to coach the team, get on the bench and do it yourself, and you take all those losses.
So with that being said, circling back to the New York Knicks, because that's where we jump-started this conversation. They don't have Zion. Knowing the Knicks the way that you do, what's the ideal thing for them to do from this point forward?
I would try to get I'm going to keep the number 3 pick, and I'm going to try to get – hopefully it'll be R.J. Barrett. I have a funny feeling he might have a big – the one thing about John Moran, he's small. I heard him on an interview say he bench presses 145. Frank, I saw his bench pressing 45, Stephen A. I need my point guard to be bench pressing 145. And he's a young kid. He's still going to get stronger. I understand he's done some special things. But I think, remember, coming into the college basketball season, everyone had R.J. Barrett projected as the number 1 overall pick. So I think a lot will depend on who Memphis takes at number 2. You can get a good player at 3, and the Knicks have been talking rebuild. So here you go.
What about Darius Garland out of Vanderbilt?
Yeah, see, he looks, when you watch him play, he looks tremendous. Doesn't always scare you, though. Name me the Vanderbilt guy that struck it big in the NBA.
That's true. But Steph Curry did come from Davidson. You never know what you find.
But, it's like when it's drafting guys from Stanford and Texas A&M in the NBA, you're like, a lot of times they don't work out for whatever reason.
I got
Except
you.
DeAndre Jordan.
Oh, you're right about that. Appreciate you, Frank Isola. Thank you, buddy. As always, man. I'll be listening tomorrow morning.
You're the man.
All right. The one and only Frank Isola, my buddy Frank Isola, did an outstanding job covering the Knicks for many, many years. 17 years in New York City for the New York Daily News. Keep in mind that the New York Knicks and the New York Daily News detest one another. And Frank Isola was in the middle of all of that because he was just doing his job covering the team for the New York Daily News, and he had to work through that minefield, a battle that had nothing to do with him, and still did the outstanding job that he did all of those years. Plus, now he's at The Athletic. He's got his own show on NBA Radio, Sirius XM. Also, he's a contributor to Around the Horn right here on ESPN. He and I go back a very, very long ways. Very, very few people on this planet are more knowledgeable about the game of basketball and the NBA than he is. Proud to call him my friend. The one and only Frank Isola right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. We'll get to your phone calls, back to your phone calls, and more because there's so much to talk about with this draft lottery. So stick around. Don't touch that dial.